Here we go. Good afternoon, evening, everyone. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I want to make sure that we start on time. We have a wonderful program for you this evening. My name is Chandra, and I am the business manager for BPW Florida. And we have partnered with the League of Women Voters to bring you navigating the 2024 election amid mis and disinformation. I think we're all going to be able to use this information now as well as after the election. Deanna Schott is with us this evening from the League of Women Voters. She's been a dedicated resident of Seminole County, Florida since 1985, where she currently resides in Lake Mary with her husband. They have four accomplished daughters and eight amazing grandchildren. That is a large family gathering. That's exciting. Civic engagement is a cornerstone of Deanna's life. For over 30 years, she's been an active member of the Seminole County League of Women Voters, where she served as past president. She is involved in her community and is a musician, among other things, but we really just want to thank her for spending her time with us this evening and sharing. So, Deanna, will you share with us, please?
I
Welcome.
am so happy to do this, and I thank you for being engaged in the civic process. I understand from Zelda Ladan, who's a member of your organization, that we align on many things. So I hope that I'll touch on things that you find not only helpful in navigating the election, but also just in navigating news, information, and life as we know it with the intervention of many, many social media platforms. So to get under the way, Kathy Swerdlow, our president, already appeared with you and told you all about the amendments that are on our ballot and about the league. So you can see what we're about. But I want to get right into today's subject. So mis and disinformation, I'm very passionate about, and it started back in 2015 and 16 when we came into that first election cycle and the whole fake news idea came to light. And since then, it seems like it's on the speed of light in terms of how we've progressed in news. So the thing that we're going to talk about is, what is the definition? So misinformation is bad information that you thought was true. So you're an innocent in the whole situation. But disinformation is bad information that you knew wasn't true. So just to give quick examples, if a friend of yours started talking about a neighbor and you went ahead and told another neighbor, that is misinformation because you didn't know that it maybe wasn't true. However, if you did know that it was true, or you made up that rumor, that is disinformation. I'm sure none of you would do that. So these are the things that are concerning people that I'm talking today with about mis and disinformation. President Biden recently said our biggest enemy to democracy in the United States is mis and disinformation. I wonder why it keeps doing that on its own. I'm very sorry. So I'm going to talk about how you can make a difference, how me and you, in how we interact with this mis and disinformation. It fuels hate, and we are experiencing the incredible amounts of polarization. It drives down our trust in institutions that we've had a lot of faith in. It began with the post office. I don't know if you all remember that. But then it's progressed into distrust of the FBI, distrust of newspapers, distrust of news stations, and then more in the last 8 years, a basic distrust in our elections. And I'm sure you understand, as I do, that when we're distrusting the elections, it's very, very hard to navigate an election. Of course, there's no easy answer, as much as we'd like to think there is. And the main reason is because our First Amendment rights to free speech. Just because someone thinks something is true and talks about it, and if we find out it's not true, we cannot stop them because they have the right to think and talk about what they believe is true. So we can all take responsibility on this by becoming better at it, at looking at what are the causes and what is out there to manage. I'm having a hard time because my screen is moving at its own pace.
I think it probably has timers on it, so it wants to move you along on it. So
Oh, okay.
you might have to like click on it. It might pause for you if you click on it.
Okay. Let's see if that helps. Wow, it's all over the place. Anyway, I'm sorry, it's made me just a little bit flustered here because I can't see what I'm doing. So all of these things are bad, and there is no easy way to get around it. In other words, one thing isn't worse than the other. And then the fact that when we were kids, or when we were raising our children, or in the midst of it, we would always say the truth is better than a lie. Today, sometimes it is very, very difficult to know what is truth and what is a lie because of the way things can be put out there. The context, the pictures, the way we see things and process things can really make it difficult to determine what is the truth and what is a lie. So these are the main tactics that are used by people who are involved in mis and disinformation. Some of them, like we said, misinformation, they do it unknowingly, but some of them actually are calculating their misinformation. So we're going to break down each of these issues to understand just briefly how they affect us in what we see and how we perceive it. We see a lot of arguments that are based on faulty logic and illogical premises that can't be proven wrong, and yet we know in our heart it's not right. We see coded messages about stereotypes, very recently about they're eating the cats and they're eating the dogs. You just have to wonder what that really means. And of course, everyone has always thrived on conspiracy theories, and they've been around forever. And then finally, some of the simplest forms of disinformation are old and outdated information, because in this time of technology, when everything moves so quickly, it is very, very easy to share something that is true or was true in, let's say, 2010, that there's no way it works today. So it doesn't have to be false to be a problem. Well, what can we do? The United States government has taken some steps, but they're always quite slow because writing laws is not an easy thing. After the Biden messages that were sent out to people in Maine, the FCC quickly outlawed AI-generated robocalls, and that are meant to discourage anybody from voting, regardless of party. So that was good. Then we had talked in Congress and the Senate about having some laws on AI, and actually the people developing it themselves stepped up and say, it's really important that we do govern the use of AI. So they had an economic summit. It's my hands that allows it to move. That is wild. That they actually decided to govern themselves. And the biggest players that have made rules to help us with the election specifically are Google, Meta, and Microsoft. They have taken a very active part in helping to dispel. So the next thing I'm going to do is talk about the fact that I have some images that I want to share with you and some things I want to share with you, just to show you the depth of our problem and the things that you need to be looking at as you are navigating news and especially election information. Because one thing I want to tell you, there is no law against lying in political advertising. I don't know if you're shocked, but I really feel that we should have them, but we do not. So people who are running for election, PACs that are putting out all this information, none of it has to be based in truth. So it just makes it incredibly hard to navigate all the information's out there. So here are just some of the stories that have been shared in just the last month about how the city of Chicago has stopped all aid to low-income communities. These have been debunked by the city itself, by news agencies, by agencies that do nothing more. That Black communities have their parks taken over by immigrants, that Taylor Swift lost her endorsement contract to Coca-Cola, that the NFL and Kansas City Chiefs have banned Taylor Swift from attending Chiefs games. These are all real things that are out there on the internet that people are sharing and believe. Well, why? Why do they believe it? Here's another one that is definitely proven to be true. I think I skipped one here. Did I show this one? Okay, so these are just two fake pictures that were put together and put words to it. And I'm going to show you a little later how you can figure that out yourself. And then the other thing from various things regarding FEMA. FEMA itself had to come out, and the link that I have right there is and I can share this program with you. FEMA came out on Facebook, on all the social medias, and said none of the stuff that you're hearing about hurricanes is true, that they're out there doing what they need to do, and people are accessing all of the help that they need in this terrible time. And then here's another one where the assassination attempt on Trump. They show an agent laughing. Well, they're able to go back and trace the video to its original form and find out that someone replaced the head of that agent from another place and put it on the video. And they're able to make that look lifelike enough that people believed it. Well, how do they do that? Right here. There are, with a simple Google, you can find 23 free programs that'll allow you to do this. And you don't have to pay anything for it. They can change videos, pictures, you can give it a scenario and they can make a movie to match the scenario. So the ease at which all kinds of bad agents, they call them, can adapt is pretty frightening. Why does this work on us? Well, now we're going to get into just a little bit of psychology. The first part is motivated reasoning. We are predisposed to believe ideas that align with our political beliefs and social values. It's a big sentence, but I want to read it again because this is the key to almost everything. We're predisposed, in other words, everything that we are, that we've read, that we've seen, and we've been raised with, to believe ideas that align with our political beliefs, with what we've seen when we were growing up, what we heard from our grandparents, and our social values based on the way we live our own lives. So everything that we see, we've heard the saying, through rose-colored glasses. We all are that way. We're programmed that way as human beings to feel comfortable with what we know and uncomfortable with what we don't know. So motivated reasoning is a really big factor. The second thing is emotional appeals. So that is when a misleading message can strike a chord within you. It makes you maybe very angry or fearful or very happy and excited. anytime you're looking at something, unless it's maybe from your kids or your husband or wife, that makes you that excited, it should be reason for pause. You should stop and say, why did I get that strong emotion? And try to sort through how you're seeing that information rather than taking it at face value. The other thing is easy answers. Whenever we have big problems that we're looking at, and a lot of people have different ways of perceiving the problems that are in our lives, in our nation, we are looking for easy answers. So if an ad or a candidate or a party is right there with an answer that should solve every problem, that is another time that you take a step back and you say, no, wait a minute. How is that possible? What is it that makes the information stick? Well, a lot of times it's they use all three of those things in every message. And why do they do that? Well, my husband, he is a retired judge and attorney, and he always would say, follow the money. And it's true. You usually find that so many things are having to do with money. However, the first one listed here is political agenda. And that's understanding that they are trying to motivate you in a particular way. So it's not necessarily to give you a truth, but to move you along a paradigm that helps you to believe that their candidate would solve it, that their legislation would make a difference. Though that's a political motivation. Then there is a lot of profit motivation these days. Anybody who knows about social influencers, right? I don't know about you, but I have a niece who is a social influencer and she's a photographer. She takes pictures all over and she gets paid by clothing companies to wear their clothes. She gets paid by the camera companies. They send her equipment and she reviews it and uses it and posts on it. And she makes a very, very nice living with that. There are also a lot of for-profit ad clicks. So when they're putting some of this information out there, it's not because they want to give you good information. They want to appeal to you, either to your fear, your worry, your some exciting feature to get you to click. That's all they need you to do, because every time you click, they get paid. So those are the two biggest money motivators in mis and disinformation. And the final one, it's so sad, is people who want to get a rise out of other people. They want to hurt other people so that they can make a point or they can feel better about themselves. So those are the three major motivators for mis and disinformation. So it comes in many forms. It's not easy. It's the truth is found in a gray area. It appears to our biases, our emotions, our desire for easy answers. It's motivated by politics, profits, and pranks. And if we're not careful, we spread this bad information just because we're busy, naive, or don't know better. So the second half of tonight is to talk about how can we make a difference? Because I am passionate, as I'm sure you are all passionate, about your businesses and about your business's place in the world. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here tonight, and want to know, how can we make a difference in this thing? Well, these are the ways that we can. We can, first of all, not give it any fuel. The thing that everyone is using, putting information out there, is to get you excited, get you to think like them, make you feel bad that you don't think about like them. And there are very, very few cases where it is worth it to actually even answer these posts. So the big rule is do not engage. And I will tell you more specifically why not engaging is very helpful. And that has to do with the algorithms that every single one of these social media companies uses. And as we know, even news outlets. So cable TV, they're on the internet, right? They say, oh, watch this program on our internet channel. And the radio, they have internet channels, and then social media has internet channels. So there are so many ways that when you get engaged with one of these mis or disinformation posts, news stories, pictures, whatever, that you are increasing their appeal by answering or sharing, even if you're sharing it in a negative way. Like we tell our kids, don't argue. It goes the same online. There are always unintended consequences when you argue. You could lose a friend, you could get flustered and not make your point correctly. It's a slippery slope. So arguing just doesn't work. Here's one that I found to be very, very useful, and I didn't actually realize how important it can be. And so amplifying is when any interaction with false information online, negative or otherwise, if you pass it on, you make it gain power and speed. Social media algorithms, they do not gauge anything on positive or negative, only on amounts of, they can even tell when you pause, by the way. So let's say, ooh, you're going to read that and then you can't believe it and you read it again. And then you say someone else coming over and read it. Well, now they say, ooh, they really like that because they spent all this time reading it. So that is shocking to me as well. If you click it, if you share it, if you read it, it increases the power of what you're looking at. And then don't repeat the actual language because that's what they want you to do. Don't say the words that FEMA's not really showing up. How silly is that? Because now you're just amplifying what they want amplified. And we don't end up winning with that kind of situation. So try not to use the language, even if you create your own post, which we'll talk about in a minute. And this just goes without saying, similar to arguing, you rarely change anybody's mind by embarrassing them. As a matter of fact, generally speaking, they're going to dig their heels in and say, see, I was right. That's why they're arguing with me or why they embarrassed me. And I have been very guilty of this because I'm a big fact checker and I have definitely changed my ways. Sharing only the facts is good. I'm not telling you that it's bad, but it's a little bit condescending, right? However, think of it this way. You check facts. Why? So that you know better, so that you know what the truth is, and you can share your truth. So if sharing your truth means I read this, I checked on it, now I'm going to tell my kids, I'm going to tell my husband, I'm going to tell my coworkers. If it's something you feel really strong about, and especially if it's about the election or candidates or things that are important to your broader community, then you may want to respond. How you use the fact-checked information is what's important. Not that you just say, oh, well, PolitiFact said blah. Well, what you say is, I went and checked PolitiFact and it said this. So I went and checked Wikipedia and I went on that candidate's website and lo and behold, this is really the fact here. Well, now you've made it powerful and you have given people in your sphere, in your family, something really good to go for in battling disinformation. So I'm going to give you a few more tools to do what I just said, to find ways to get information, to formulate good opinions, to separate bad information from good information, and then to make the decision personally if it's worth it to move forward. So one of the first things is it a tipping point? So it may be a tipping point for you personally, because maybe you have a religious, political, or personal belief that it flies in the face of. Or how about this? If they're talking about that you can no longer trust the FBI, how does that make you feel? What if you ever need that service? So you have to use like a scale of how important it is in your life and in the life of your community. Then the other thing is a data deficit. And this is really a little stronger argument on why you would want to get involved with debunking bad information. If they've used wrong information, if they've distorted the information, if they've used information that has come from years and years ago, then it might be good to say, wow, this was true in 1980, but today you might want to check here, here, and here because I found that it isn't true now. Or however you want to deal with getting the good information out there. But don't click, don't share, don't comment under. Create your own truth. So if you can resolve an obstacle, I work the polls as part of just my desire to further democracy. And I've worked for 20 years, and only in about the last 8 have I found that people come in and they question about the validity of what we are doing, how we are doing, and whether or not the results are going to be true. So in those particular cases, I really have to stop and answer those disbeliefs and give them the true information. If you find yourself in a similar kind of situation, then that is definitely the time. But always keep it with your personal knowledge or your personal experience, so that it's not as if you're speaking about something you don't know, or spewing more lies from sources that they don't trust. Then the final piece to the puzzle is to do your own research. And I am sure that all of you have ways that you do it. I'm just going to share some of the ones that I've found that are excellent. So I attended a workshop with both Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, and Microsoft, and they have very good ways for you to check, especially regarding the election. Okay, so I don't know if you all have phones that you can take out, or if your president or business manager would like me to share this, but I really would love for this to be the kind of information that is out there to help people. The Microsoft resources tend to be really, really good. There's one called Protect the Public, Deep Fakes in the Elections, and the AKA Reporting Misinformation. The Meta ones on Facebook are okay. They're not nearly as effective. Then I love, love, love this one. It's called Google Like a Pro. You can go online and just type in Google Like a Pro, and it'll give you this little graphic that I have that explains how you can use Google Lens on pictures and videos to search back and find the original. Okay, so that you don't have to take at face value what you're seeing. If it seems like you shouldn't believe it, then maybe you want to go and Google Like a Pro. And then here's another one that if you have your phone available, I would highly suggest that you take a picture. These are all nonprofit. Well, no, let me start over. PolitiFact was started by the St. Petersburg Times, and then it was purchased by a nonprofit organization. And so that's who runs it now. And then factcheck.org has always been nonpartisan, nonprofit. Snopes.com was a woman who started it way back 30 years ago. She has a big staff now, but her only goal is reporting, debunking bad information on social media. The AP News is the news source that everybody who is trying to share news out there uses to get facts. They're the biggest collector of facts in the world, not just here. And then I love this one especially. It's called opensecrets.org, and all they do is follow the money. And for so many of these disinformation posts, memes, or whatever, you can find out on Open Secrets how the people are getting paid, what organizations put the money up for it. And it is so very helpful. So in 2024, I have subscribed. And if you are a political junkie like myself, or a very engaged civic person and want to know what is going on, what's true and what's not, with not having to put in a ton of work, I love this organization. Newslit.org was started by John Miller, who was a journalist with the Washington Post. Back in 2006, he presented to his daughter's class, and the kids knew nothing about civics, elections, how to read the newspaper, what was in the newspaper, and they started this organization originally to educate the kids. Well, when things started getting a little crazy in politics, they decided that they needed to increase their reach so that they could help people not be misled, but rather be informed so that they can make good judgments regarding the election. So since 2010, they have increased their reach to include that. So I really like this program. It's called Is It Legit? And it's 5 steps. And again, all you have to do is Google it and it'll come up. 5 steps on how to vet a news source, to find out where they got it from, to trace the pictures, all that kind of thing, and make sure that it indeed is a good source. They also have something that's called the election dashboard. So you can, it looks at the highest ranking disinformation out there. So it'll take maybe 3 to 5 stories that are just crazy, untrue, and put it on a dashboard that you can look at. And then they have another one called Rumor Guard. And that is where you can send in things and find out if they're true, and they will send out in a newsletter all of the rumors that they've received, whether they're true or not. So I absolutely love this nonprofit organization. People that have been on their board are people like the speechwriter for President Bush, from the Ford Foundation, from the New York Times, from Rutgers University, from industry, PBS NewsHour, NPR. So all of those organizations believe in newslit.com or .org, I'm sorry. And it's a great source now for the public. What do you do if there's dangerous information? The election tip line is reportdisinfo.org, and you can report to the FBI. I have to tell you that my daughter reported her Facebook account being hacked to the FBI, and they contacted Facebook and got her account back. So I think that we all might possibly underestimate what the FBI is capable of doing, but they do want to know about anything having to do with election fraud. So that you just call 800 call FBI. So what are the benefits? You've listened to everything I have to say. You've now understand how it can become so emotional. It's tied to who we are, how we learn, how we were brought up, and that most of the time you shouldn't get engaged, that you should look to see how important it is that you correct the information and then actually do it yourself rather than spreading anything or talking about anything that is incorrect. What you'll do is you'll build up resilience. You will now look at news differently. You'll stop and pause before you say, oh, I'm going to send this to my girlfriend because she's going to get the biggest laugh. And especially if it's anything that's election related, I just say, please, please don't do it. share what's true, share your experience about early voting, share your experience about going to the polls, share your experience about being able to track your ballot through to the end. That is the kind of information that we want to encourage everyone to be sharing, rather than anything else that we aren't sure of, because we don't want to be the one who sends out misinformation. We want to be the people who are doing the best for our families, our communities, and our countries. And then the last thing I'll share is Vote 411. If you want to click a quick picture of this, the League is nonpartisan. We never endorse any candidates or parties. And we ask all the candidates that are going to be on your ballot questions. And if they want the public to be informed, they answer the questions themselves. And we have them all on a database. You put in your address and it'll give you your specific ballot with every person and item that'll be on, including the amendments. Like in Seminole, we have Seminole charter amendments. It'll all be on there, and you can do research on how you would like to vote. So thank you so much. And I want to open it up to see if we have any questions.
I am loving this information. This has been amazing. Our group, Mary, do you have a question?
I do. My question is, hi, thank you. That was a great presentation. A lot of information. Do you have any indication what is the largest avenue, either social media, email, or text, or other things on this, the avenue of traffic for mis and disinformation? Disinformation in particular.
Yeah. So truly, the information on Facebook, they do have an algorithm that looks for particular words, but it doesn't go far enough. So the largest amount of disinformation is found on Facebook. The second largest is TikTok, and the third largest is Instagram. And why? Because they like to target younger people, because we're more experienced. You know, we've had experiences where we've seen people try to pull it over on us and that kind of thing. And I feel like the younger people are easier targets, and they get them not just for political things, of money and for hookups.
And
Aren't those
interestingly,
also
because
just factors of their size? I mean, Facebook is literally the largest membership in the world. I mean,
It
there
is.
are 10 times more people on Facebook than there are on Snapchat or Pinterest or anything like that. So I mean,
Exactly.
it's like going into a stadium and going, well, there's 20 people here that are doing it wrong. You know, meanwhile, that's only as a percentage of their total users. You just find it more often because there's so much more content there.
It's very true, but you know that you can block content. So, and this is something that I should add to my presentation. When you see something and perhaps you take pause and you check it out, you can say block this content, and now you're speaking to their algorithm, right? And people say to me, don't you hate getting all that bad info on your Facebook? Well, I don't. I don't have a lot of bad info, because when I find it, I block it or I debunk it. And so the algorithm doesn't like me for that. I see a lot more of my friends' posts.
That's interesting.
Isn't that the truth? I was going to say, because Facebook is primarily us over 45, the young, over 50, really. Hanny, did you have a question?
No, actually more a comment. I find this,
You're very quiet, so you must speak up or move closer.
oh, how's that? Does this help?
Better, better.
Okay. Actually more of a comment than a question. And that is that this is extremely helpful information and scary at the same time, because I agree with what you're saying in terms of influencing the younger voters. And I say, quote, voters, because they're addressing the younger people, and not a lot of them are known to be active voters. So, you know, I'd like to think that that's hopefully going to fall flat. and not have the kind of influence that they expect. But thank you very much for those resources. Debunking and finding truths is always important, particularly if you're interested and you really want to follow the facts. So I'm glad I attended this. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Yes,
Go
ma'am.
ahead, Corey.
Okay, hi, everybody. First of all, Deanna, thank you so much. I wish we had thought of booking you a few months ago because it would have saved me a lot of headache. As some people will tell you, I get caught with that stuff, especially if I share something and then somebody goes, nope, that's not real. So I'm going to take all that you shared with us and use it. And I'm grateful for that. And Chandra, I know your brain is already thinking about how we can put this on our public policy page on our website. This is the kind of thing that we can take and really build on. I really heard what you were saying about, I wonder if that is true. And I wonder if I need to share this, especially with all of Facebook. So thank you. And we as an organization are getting, I think, more active in this process of voting. And we have some young women who aren't with us tonight, but I'm going to encourage them to watch this because they're voting in their first election this year. And we want them to be as educated as possible. And your information is helping us with that. The next thing we need is a session on how do we go forward after the election. So think about that, Deanna.
Believe me, I am. The reason I got so interested in Newslit, that I am going to start working with our education committee and going to propose to Seminole County Public Schools that we be allowed to run a program for the students in middle and high school base. They have a plethora of resources for educators. And I feel like if I give a program to the school as a whole, or maybe even just the teachers, like on an in-service day, and stress to them the importance of this, that is going to be my big goal moving forward, because it's in an off election year. I think that is going to be my main focus, is educating our young voters.
Because they're the future. I mean, if they can recognize this myths and disinformation before it even gets out there, then the fuel is gone. It stops spreading because they're not spreading it. And that's the hardest part, is like you said right there in the beginning, is sharing the information. So, oh, that just gave me goosebumps. Like, our children are our future. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, Deanna, for sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for all of your knowledge. It's been so great to team up with you guys and be able to offer this to our membership. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well,
have a wonderful night, everybody. Be safe, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
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 Bye.